Welcome to Woodworking Wisdom with me, Sean Evelegh, where we're going to be cutting a castle joint. The tools you'll need are a rip saw, a bevel edge chisel set, a mallet, a fret saw, a mortise gauge, a marking gauge can also be helpful, a square, a marking knife, a rule and a pencil. Castle joints are very strong but also quite decorative. They're often used on garden furniture and frames. I think they look really good on country-style kitchen tables and coffee tables. It gets its name from the post piece getting two notches cut out, leaving a turret-style shape on top. So the first thing you want to do is mark out the post component. These two pieces are going to have a half lap in it, and they're going to slot into this post. They're going to go the full width of the board. So I'm going to set my marking gauge to the same width as it, like that, and I'm just going to make a small mark there. The top of this component might not be perfectly square, so I don't want to run the marking gauge all the way around it, otherwise the lines won't meet up and it won't be extremely accurate. So I'm going to use my square and a marking knife to draw all the way around, but I want to establish a face side. I'm going to pick the decorative grain, so I'm going to go for this side and this side. So as long as I'm referencing off one of the face sides or face edges, this shoulder line is going to be completely square all the way around. I'm going to put my knife into that marking gauge mark I made, butt up the square and draw a line. I'm going to turn the piece over now, so I'm going to reference off the face side, put my knife in that mark and carry on that line. Now the thickness of these two pieces is 20 millimeters and the thickness of this post is 60. So I'm going to have a third, a third and a third. So I'm going to position this mortise gauge in the center of this piece. This is already preset to the thickness of my board, but I got to find the center of this. So I've got my rule. I'm going to mark with a knife just to be extra accurate. I'm going to mark at 20 and 40. Now I'm going to bring my mortise gauge up, line up the wheel on that knife mark I just made, and lock that in. Check the other side, and that's bang on. Okay, so I want to remember to mark these lines from the face sides, and I'm going to engage one wheel at a time to ensure I get a clean line. If you do both wheels at the same time, it's very easy to get an inaccurate reading. Make sure not to go past that knife line. Roll the wheel up to it. So now I've got all those lines marked out, I got to remove all this waste in the middle. I'm going to do that with a rip saw, and I'm going to cut off the line and then chisel back to it. If I cut on the line, it's quite a big cut and it's likely to wander. So I'm going to clean up the edges with the chisel after. Going to head over to the bench vise, put this in here. So now I'm going to use this fret saw to remove most of the waste. So now all of that's gone, I'm now going to use some chisels to pare back all the walls and clean that up. So I'm just using a rule to make sure there's no high spots. Okay, so let's give these components a test fit. That fits nicely. And that is good as well. So now, all we need to do is cut a half lap in these two components and then slot it in. So to do that, I'm going to get my marking knife, roughly eyeball this in the middle, make a mark in the corner, and then I'm going to draw a line with a square. Need to establish my face sides as well. And then use the board itself, because that will give you a much more accurate reading than measuring it with a ruler and then using the ruler on the workpiece. You could be slightly off the millimetre. But if I use the board, line up with that marking line and just cut, and then use the knife again to draw that line. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this component. Follow those lines down. Okay, now I want to set my marking gauge to slightly over half the thickness of the material, the width of the material. So if you go bang on half, then it could prevent the joint from seating. So I'm just going to go slightly over and have a tiny gap in the middle. So now I got the marking gauge set, I'm just going to mark on the centre of the board the depth of this half lap. I'm not going to go this can actually be, you can go wider than those marks on the top, because this is going to get hidden in the joint. So now I'm going to carry on those lines down with a square, meeting that marking gauge line I just scribed. Okay, so now my notches are marked out. They're going to interlock like this, and I'm going to cut this out with the rip saw, going slightly off the line, because I'm going to chisel back. So now I'm going to clamp this to the workbench and use a chisel to pare back to this line. All right, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. There we go. That looks really good. What I'm going to do now is take it apart, add some glue, and that is the joint complete. So I'm first going to glue up this half lap. Get glue on all the surfaces. Okay, and now I'm going to put some glue in this castle post. Make sure it's fully seated. And to help these fingers really close in on that half lap, I'm going to add a couple of clamps. Like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is leave this to set overnight, and then we'll come back in the morning and see what it looks like. So that is the castle joint complete. It's very decorative and extremely strong. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Remember to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon for the next video.